Shown here are the pieces that make up a parking brake kit for your car. Included are 2 new sets of parking brake shoes, 4 new brake caliper mounting bolts, 4 new spreader springs, and 4 new retaining springs. Begin by removing the brake pads and caliper from the rear wheels. Please refer to our article and video on replacing brakes for more information by following the link at the end of this video. Next, remove the 5mm brake disc retaining screw. It's a good idea to break this screw loose before removing the caliper and brake pads, especially if you live in a 4-season climate, as this can get rusted and stuck. Depending on how tight your brakes are set, you may need to take the tension off the inner brake shoe in order to remove the rear brake disc. To access the adjusting screw, you'll need to rotate the disc until one of the holes for the lug bolts is at the 10 o'clock green arrow position. If you shine a light inside, you should be able to see it. This picture shows the adjuster screw with the brake disc removed. You'll need to turn the adjuster screw with a screwdriver in the direction of the green arrow in order to lessen the tension on the 2 brake shoes. Once the tension has been relieved, you can pull the brake disc off. The inside of the disc is the drum that the parking brake shoes engage with. Once off, you'll see the components that make up the parking brake. In this picture, you can see the adjuster screw, yellow arrow, the upper retaining spring, as indicated by the green arrow, the parking brake shoes, red arrows, and the purple arrow shows the approximate position of the brake shoe retaining springs. Looking up at the bottom of the parking brake, you'll see the 2 parking brake shoes held in place by the lower retaining spring, red arrow, and the expanding frame that spreads the pads out when you engage the parking brake, green arrow. Spread the brake shoes apart at the top and remove the adjuster screw, green arrow. Use extreme caution as the springs hold everything together very tight. Now remove the upper retaining spring, green arrow. It's easier to just bend the spring as you remove it. You're going to replace it anyways, and then try to unhook it from the shoes. Next, remove the 2 brake shoe retaining springs, one shown green arrow. They make a special tool for this, and it really comes in handy. These can be quite tricky to get. The idea is to press in as far as possible and then turn the spring. This will unlatch it from the backing plate. Unfortunately, it sounds easier than it is. Just take your time, they'll come out. This picture shows the slot in the backing plate where the retaining springs for the brake shoes attach. It snakes through the slot on the brake shoe, yellow arrow, then grabs the backing plate, green arrow. This picture shows the new brake shoes with the new springs properly oriented when you install them on the car. Refer back to this picture if you get lost. The tabs on each brake shoe at the top fit into the adjusting screw, while the grooves at the bottom fit into the expanding frame. Keep those grooves in mind for the next step. Here are the ears of the expanding frame, green arrow. Now you'll want to install only the bottom retaining spring and slip the grooves of the brake shoe into the ears shown here. This is a little tricky to do. Now fit the lower grooved end into the ear on the expanding frame, yellow arrow. You'll then want to take a screwdriver and pull the other grooved end, green arrow, up and over the upper ear on the expanding frame. It's a bit tricky to do, but it's the only way to get everything in place. Install the upper retaining spring. Spread the shoes wide enough to slip the adjuster screw in place as shown here. Now comes the hardest part of the job, getting the shoe retaining spring in place. You'll need to hook the spring in just a way so that you can turn the spring as you push it inwards, thus locking the spring into the backing plate. We are attempting to do it here with a large flathead screwdriver, but if you have the special retaining spring tool, it's much easier. I like to rotate the hub until a hole lines up with the outside of the spring, and then push the spring inwards with a screwdriver. Again, if you have the special tool, it makes it a lot easier, but it can be done with a large flathead screwdriver. Once both shoes' retaining springs are in, fit the brake disc over the whole assembly and secure it with a new retaining screw. Rotate the disc so you can access the adjuster screw inside with a small screwdriver, and rotate the screw up to increase the tension in the shoes. From time to time, pull the screwdriver out and check and see if you can still turn the disc. You'll want to keep increasing tension until you can't turn it anymore. Now back the adjuster off until you can just turn the disc. All you need to do now is bolt the caliper back on, put the brake pads back in, and put the wheels back on. Thanks for watching. Click here to view the original article along with hundreds of other DIY content for your car.